This couple found out the hard way why you don't go wandering around the Smoky Mountains if you don't know where you're going. In the early 2000s, this Ohio couple just graduated high school and they were going to spend the summer in Charleston, South Carolina with the guy's brother. They really wasn't on any kind of time schedule making their way from Ohio to Charleston, so along the way they would often stop at hiking trails and famous landmarks and just enjoy each other's company while taking in all the beautiful scenery. When they reached Tennessee, they took the drive through the Smoky Mountains, and this particular day it was starting to get dark, and they decided they would just pull over and find somewhere and sleep for the night. Pretty much through this whole trip, they had stopped. They loved to hike and just the outdoors in general, so they took advantage of that whenever they came to a well marked hiking spot, a place they could camp. But since it was getting dark and they didn't really know the area that well, they didn't want to pay for a hotel. They just drove along the back roads in the Smoky Mountains until they found an old, grown-up logging road. They both made the decision when they seen this road that it looks kind of overgrown. There shouldn't really be any people around, so they just decided they would pull their truck up on this logging road. They went roughly a mile or so, and by the time they reached their destination, a clearing, they decided they would just sleep in the truck for the night. Being very outdoorsy and loving nature and hiking, they wasn't intimidated by the Smoky Mountains or wildlife or forest. They were very comfortable in making the decision of just pulling off to sleep. So after a few days of being on the road, when they finally put the truck in park and turned the engine off, they reclined their seats back and just tried to get some sleep. The lady ended up falling asleep pretty quickly again because they were tired. The guy, he had trouble. He couldn't really get comfortable in his reclining seat, and so he just kind of tossed and turned for a little while. At one point, he even considered getting out and getting the tent out of the truck and just setting up tent next to the truck to camp so he could hopefully sleep. But he just got that gut feeling, it probably wasn't a good idea. He wasn't really sure if it's where it was a new area and he didn't really know where he was at, or in nature, you never know what can happen. So he just opted to stay in the truck, and eventually he did fall asleep. Around 2 a.m., his girlfriend woke up because she heard what sounded like somebody or something walking around the truck. She reached over to wake up her boyfriend and told him to listen, and he also began to hear it, but then it quit. It stopped all of a sudden. They assumed it was probably a black bear or maybe a deer. Didn't really think a lot about it. So they just laid back down and tried to go back to sleep. About 15 or 20 minutes later, the girlfriend was woke up again by what sounded like this time multiple people or creatures walking around the outside of the truck. Again, she reached over and woke up her boyfriend, and he also heard it. And so he didn't really know what to do because he didn't have any kind of weapon, and he's still thinking it's probably some kind of animal, even though it sounded like people. He decided he would just turn the headlights on to see if anything was in front of the truck. And when he done that, that's when he seen what appeared to be 4 people standing about 20 yards in front of their truck. But these just wasn't ordinary people. He said these people looked like something straight out of a movie. They were covered from head to toe in mud, just very stringy and dirty hair, and they were just staring at them through the windshield about 20 yards away. Immediately they knew this was not right. They needed to leave, but they were in a huge F-150, Ford F-150 truck, the big tires, and they were on this little narrow road, so he couldn't just whip it around to turn to get away. So he did throw the truck into gear, he threw it in reverse, and he started to back up, and every time the headlights would kind of go off those people, they would start coming toward the truck closer. And at this point, they're starting to freak out. He don't want to make any sudden, quick turns or anything because he don't really know the area. He don't want to, cut it too deep and get caught in a ditch or hit something. So he's very slowly trying to maneuver to back up and also watch these people, because every time his headlights hit off of them, they start coming toward closer to the truck. This goes on for a couple minutes and they're really starting to panic, and at one point he turns a little quicker, a little more deep cut, and his headlight stays off for a little bit longer time period. And when he turns the truck back toward them, there's not just 4 of them this time. He said there's 11 or 12 of them. They are completely freaking out because now there's not just 4 people, there's 11 or 12 of them. They're in the middle of nowhere at 2:30 in the morning, in the middle of the Smoky Mountains, an area they don't know anything about, and this huge group of people is starting to surround their vehicle. The only thing he knows to do at this point is just try to back out of this road completely because he can't turn. And so it's just a slow process because at this time there are no rear view cameras, there's no backup cameras. He's just relying on his side mirrors and the old-fashioned way of turning around to look, but he can't really see anything. At one point, he realizes he hit something and his truck kind of bounces. He runs over something, not knowing what it was. The tires start to spin. He didn't remember running over anything on the way in, but now he's trying to figure out what this is because those people are just getting closer to the truck. So he decides to put it back in drive, and he pulls forward really quickly. He guns it, and that's when he hops back over, and he's able to see this point that there's a log, a tree laying across the road. And as he throws it back in reverse and guns it backwards again, he can see actually that this tree had been freshly cut. It wasn't there when they pulled in, but these people, or someone with these people, had cut this tree down. He knows that now they're truly in danger because these people are obviously trying to trap them in this little area. So as quickly as he can, but still very slowly, he just stays in reverse the whole way. And these people are just staying out of the headlights' reach, just enough where they are illuminated. But they're following this truck all the way out. After several grueling minutes, he gets close to the road again because he can start to see headlights go by. And all the while, these people are still following from a distance. Eventually, he does make it back to the road, and he throws it in drive and shoots out of there. They go to the local police or the sheriff and report what happened. And they just told them they would check it out, and if anything ever come of it, they would let them know. They'd contact them. But they never did hear from the local police. This should be a reminder, anytime you're out in an area you're not familiar with, it's good to have a weapon or at least be aware of your surroundings and don't go in places you're not familiar with because who knows what's out there. If you've ever had an experience like this or any kind of paranormal experience, I'd love to hear your story, see your evidence. My email's listed in my bio. You can contact me that way. You guys have a great day. God bless.